We're here at G Anime with Terri Hawkes, the voice of Sailor Moon. Thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
So it's your first time in Gatineau. I know you come from Quebec.
Je suis née au Quebec, mais I haven't spent a lot of time here since I was a baby. But I have visited. I have a cousin who lives here in the area, and I lived in Ottawa for a year. I went to Carleton University.
Oh, great.
And my dad was a member of Parliament for many years, so I visited Ottawa quite frequently at some points. Yeah.
That's great. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
A lot of French-speaking fans here. Do you find that interesting? You're able to
Oui,
converse
j'aime
with
ça
them?
beaucoup. C'est une opportunité de pratiquer mon français, mais c'est un longtemps depuis que je parle français et j'oubliais beaucoup. But I really like trying.
You did great.
Thanks.
Did you ever watch the French dub of the Sailor Moon show?
I haven't seen it, but I've been chatting with a few people about it today, and I really must take a look at that.
Yeah, I played here in the Ottawa area because there's a lot of French
Okay.
channels.
Okay.
But I think probably from the people you've met here, people probably prefer the English version.
Well, I've heard that, and I haven't seen the French one as I told you, the Francophone one, but I suspected that probably there was more time and money that went into the English dub. I don't know that. And so sometimes that supports the actors in doing more than one take and that kind of thing. But I know there's some really talented French voice artists, many of who I have worked with previously. So I think sometimes it's just a matter of the resources that they have for the project.
Cool. Well, I'm glad they had the resources they did for Sailor Moon.
Yeah, me too.
What are your thoughts on Sailor Moon as a role model for young girls?
I love that question. You know, it's interesting to me that I think it's become more apparent to me in later years that Sailor Moon was such a role model for not only girls but boys, surprisingly well.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so I think of it more of as her being a human model.
Yeah.
But Sailor Moon is reputed by some to have been the gateway to anime and one of the first female heroines, especially in that genre. And I feel some measure of pride in being a part of the team that brought Sailor Moon to so many people. And what I love about her as a heroine is that she's imperfect.
Yeah.
So we have Serena, who's a schoolgirl, and she's vulnerable and klutzy sometimes and makes mistakes and is a human being. And I think we can all relate to that. And then on the other hand, she has these superpowers that enable her to garner positivity from the universe and fight the negaverse. And I think that we all have these powers within us to draw on our, as some people say, higher power or our best selves or whatever that might mean to you.
Yep.
And so I think in a sense she offers us both. And in the form of a little girl, I think she's doubly powerful in that she's a gender that isn't often used to explore superpowers and strength in that way. So I think that she's a good role model for boys and girls and men and women, and I think that's kind of exciting.
That's great. Now, when you were originally recording the show, did you get a sense of that audience that you'd be reaching to as a role model, or did that just come later, sort of as the show exploded? Or?
Yeah, I think it came more later. Certainly when we were recording Sailor Moon, we felt, and I say we, I mean the whole team, so Nicole Tual, the producer, Roland Parliament, the director, the sound engineer, the writers who we didn't know but whose script we were entrusted in representing fairly, and then the voice actors. It was a really talented group of voice actors, I believe. And we all took it very seriously and worked very hard. The schedule was jam-packed. Nicole, the producer, was very passionate about this series and just doing the best with it that she possibly could. So we took it very seriously. So the team, Nicole, the producer, the director, Roland Parliament, the voice actors, we took it very seriously. We had the scripts. We tried to represent them truthfully. We tried to tell the story of this little girl and her team, her schoolmates on one hand and the superpowers on the other hand, and then all of the subtext that some of the fans know far better than I do, having watched all the episodes and having taken the time to dissect them and research them. So we felt a tremendous responsibility to telling the story that we had been, as I said, entrusted with. that being said, I don't think any of us really had the meta vision or the distance to look at it as this this series that I said was a gateway, or as one of the first female heroines in that genre, and the impact that that might have on young people and adults for that matter. So I think it was a few years into it when we started realizing that there was a bit of a fallout from this in a very positive way. So there were kids dressing up as Sailor Moon at Halloween, and then of course there was the merchandising and so on. But I think it told us at that point that we had touched a chord, and that there might have been a desire or a need for a female heroine who was multifaceted and complex and could speak to the audience, but could represent different forms and mythologies that hadn't been available in that form before. So it's really gratifying, and I have to say, being here at Gatineau Anime and a couple of other conventions that I've had the privilege of attending, it's wonderful to talk to people who know the series so intimately, have known it in some cases since they were children, and some parents of children who got into the series as well, and to hear some very profoundly moving stories that I really appreciate people who have been brave enough to share with me, and how the series might have affected their lives or supported them in times of need, or given them something to think about when they really were looking for stories outside of their own lives. And I feel very privileged to have been a part of the team that was able to bring that little glimmer of thought into some people's lives.
It's great. Now in Canada, obviously, the show was very popular. Your voice would be recognizable. Do you find when you're out in public that people recognize you for your voice? Or is that more something that you only get at a convention like this?
Well, I don't usually talk in the tone and the volume that Sailor Moon sometimes speaks in, but occasionally people do ask me if I'm at a store or something, they hear me talk and they go, "It's very familiar, have we met before?" Or because I've also done work on camera and film and television, sometimes people
maybe they saw you on trailers or something, right?
You've done your homework, oh my goodness.
It was on TV when Sailor Moon was on. It was just one of those shows.
Yeah, it looked a little different in that series. I had blonde hair, but so sometimes people, I think, along with all the other actors who are on TV and film, they get recognized, or else there's a sense that you might know that person from somewhere, but you can't place him or her. And sometimes we get to the bottom of it, and sometimes we don't. It just depends on the conversation.
Sometimes they just don't figure it out. It's interesting. Now, as you know, there's a new Sailor Moon anime coming out this summer. Have you heard anything about casting related to it or anything like that? I have
not. I actually have heard more about this series through
stuff like this?
Through fans and people who follow these potential...
Well, even the fans at this point, there's not much news to go on. It was announced and we've been waiting, so we're all looking forward to it. If you were approached, would you be interested in taking that role on again?
I was asked this at a seminar this morning, and my response was, if the circumstances were right in terms of my other schedule, and if there was an interest in me reprising the role, I would be honored to do so. And it would be great to be able to go through the process again with the original cast and team that brought the English version of Sailor Moon to us in the first place. It would be an honor.
That's fantastic. Well, I hope that happens. Your guess is as good as mine, I guess, at this point of what direction they're going to go with that. But that'd be really great. Otherwise, maybe you'll hear all the fans complaining online.
No,
Terri Hawkes was the better Sailor Moon.
No.
We don't need to get into that.
No, there were some great voices, and this is a good time to say Tracy Moore and Linda Valentine made great contributions as the voice of Sailor Moon in some of the other episodes. So it's a collective. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's the original Japanese, and there's so many different languages. And
that's right.
There's many Sailor Moons. Live action series too. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I haven't, but I heard about that today too, and I should check that out as well.
They never dubbed that, so I don't know how they would even do that. It'd be too complicated.
It would be, wouldn't it?
They could just get the original actress and teach her to speak English. That'd be really awesome. Do you still keep in touch with any of the cast members from the old show?
It's a small world, the voice acting world, so I have worked with some of the other actors on other projects. I've also been a voice director for some series like Flying Around at Junior High, and some of the actors from Sailor Moon were involved in that. And we see each other around town, and we saw each other, a few of us saw each other at a convention in Vancouver this summer,
Yeah.
which was really fun. It was nice to see them.
So yeah, I hope now that this new show's coming out that there's more sort of interest behind Sailor Moon, and we get more events like that, like having a bunch of actors together for
Yeah.
a convention. It's great.
It is. It's a real treat. And it can't always happen. It's not always very cost effective, but
Yeah.
it's fun when it does.
Well, I guess there's a lot of interest in anime, so it's good that we're able to do that. Do you have any stories of some funny moments on set, maybe with some other actors, anything like that?
You know, I didn't actually work all the time with the other actors
Sure.
because when they recorded us, they would record us individually, or Sailor Moon Serena had a good chunk of text that
Mhm.
we had to get through, so often I was in a studio by myself. But I suppose one little piece of trivia, I don't know how funny this is, but comes from my training as an actor, which was to be as truthful and authentic as possible, so kind of a
Okay.
naturalistic style. HB Studio, Carol Rosenfeld, training, Uta Hagen, all that in New York. So, to be truthful, as I was saying in the seminar this morning, I would stand up and I would
Yeah.
really act out a lot of the things that Sailor Moon was doing because she's very physical and saving the universe and all that kind of stuff. But what I would also do is when Serena was eating, as she often did in many of the scenes, I would bring in my little snacks and I would eat them, and I'd get crumbs all over the stand with my little notes and everything like that, and so I'd have to really clean up after myself anytime I left the studio because I left telltale signs of my method work within the studio.
And you hope you don't have to do too many takes.
Yeah,
and Just
exactly.
eating way too much.
That's right. That's right.
You mentioned at the panel this morning that at one point you were taking your twins to work. Did that ever have some really
Oh.
ridiculous sort of consequences?
It wasn't with Sailor Moon because
Yeah.
I finished my part in the series while I was pregnant with my kids. Well, it led me to have a greater understanding of the challenges for mothers in terms of combining work inside the home with work outside the home. So I was nursing 2 children at the same time and in the studio for many hours, so it was necessary to bring them or to pump, that kind of thing. And I won't go into too much detail because it's probably not the focus of this interview, but I did nurse in the workplace.
Sure.
And I had support for that from my colleagues and so on. And, nursing twins is in itself kind of unusual and gathers attention no matter where you are. So the fact that I was supported in doing that, I was really grateful for. Not easy, but as I say, I had some support, and I really appreciate having had the opportunity to understand what other parents go through and mothers in terms of breastfeeding and just the challenges of marrying those different parts of your lives and supporting your family in different ways, right?
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's
Yeah.
good that you were able to do that.
It was
nice.
great. It was fun.
So any other convention appearances coming up or anything like that? Is there anything scheduled?
This is sort of the third of what I'm calling my trifecta in the
Okay.
last 12 months. So I have no engagements for now outside of other projects I'm working on, and not to do with anime
Sure.
necessarily, but graduate school and writing. I'm a playwright as well.
That's
So
great.
those are the things I'm focusing on right now. I'm not saying that I won't ever appear at another anime convention, but I don't have any plans to do so right now.
All right.
Although it's been great fun. I
Well-
really enjoyed meeting the fans and people like you who have put so much time and effort into archiving Sailor Moon
Sure.
and keeping track of the different aspects of the show and future shows and that kind of thing. So thank you for your work.
Well, I'm really glad we could catch up with you when we did it.
Yeah, me too.
So thank you very much, Terri Hawkes.
My pleasure.
And
Should we do a little, I don't know, like a little chant together?
that'd be awesome. What kind of chant you looking at?
How about moon healing activation?
Moon healing activation.
All right, and we'll bring the universe with us and fight the negativerse.
And our listeners at home have to scream along if they're on the bus or whatever. They just got to do it.
Okay, so
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Moon healing activation!
Woo!
That was great. Thank you.
Pleasure.